recap, Alchemy Emperor of the Divine Dao, Chapter 963, Chapter Ma. In the vast and mysterious realm of cultivation, where heaven and earth concealed countless secrets, one question quietly stirred the hearts of those who sought power. What truly was a god tool? It was said that when a weapon bore a divine pattern carved into its very essence, it would awaken a power beyond mortal craftsmanship. Once this divine pattern was stirred, the weapon would unleash a unique and terrifying might, transcending its original form. At that moment, it would no longer be an ordinary weapon. It would become a god tool. Such creations were not limited to rare divine metals, though those materials were most commonly used. Across the ages, countless god tools had been forged from godly metals, their brilliance lighting up battlefields and legends alike. Yet the essence of a god tool lay not in the material, but in the divine pattern itself. And now, something extraordinary had occurred. Within Linghan's mountain river, a divine pattern had quietly taken form. This meant that, from a certain perspective, his mountain river itself could now be considered a god tool, one of extreme weight. With a mere flicker of thought, Linghan could activate this divine pattern. When awakened, it infused his attacks with a terrifying weight. As though the pressure of mountains and rivers descended upon his enemies, his battle prowess surged accordingly, rising to new heights. Time passed in silence. Several hours later, the mountain river stone in Linghan's hand crumbled into fine dust, its essence completely absorbed. Within his dantian, power surged. I'm almost 1/3 of the way into the late stage of the low extreme, Linghan calculated calmly. His thoughts flowed steadily, like a tranquil stream beneath a storming sky. As expected, the higher my cultivation rises, the more mountain river stones I require. And the increase is not slight. It is astonishing. When I reach perfection, I will likely need hundreds of mountain river stones just to advance by a single subminor level. He exhaled softly. Then, let me try once more. His gaze turned toward the distant island. This would be his third attempt. The moment Linghan stepped forward again, the crowd erupted into disbelief. My heavens, he's going for the island a third time? Oi, 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 is this even real? Has anyone ever done this before? No, absolutely not. Heads shook violently, disbelief rippling through the gathered cultivators like a storm. Reaching the island once was already a feat of extraordinary talent. Reaching it twice? That alone placed one among rare prodigies. Individuals who appeared perhaps once every several thousand years. In eras of abundant genius, perhaps 3 or 4 might achieve such a feat within a century. But 3 times? That was unheard of, or so most believed. Yes, someone has, a voice suddenly rang out with conviction. Who? 300,000 years ago, there was a monstrous prodigy, Shuran. That's right, Shuran. It said he reached the island 3 times, a miracle that shook the heavens. He rose to fame instantly, but then, for reasons unknown, he vanished from the world. Shuran? Who is that? Many frowned, unfamiliar with the ancient name. Linghan paid them no heed. His mind was calm, his will unwavering. He stepped onto the first stone. This time, he did not rush. Instead, he activated the divine pattern within his mountain river. Wang, a faint gravity field spread from his body. Though weaker than the crushing forces emitted by the stepping stones, it was enough to provide resistance. Just as I thought? Understanding flickered in Linghan's eyes. Zhao Lun must have refined his mountain river stone after reaching the island once. By harnessing its gravity field, he was able to counter the oppressive forces of the stones and succeed a second time. Of course, that alone was not enough. Only those with true strength could make use of such an advantage. For the weak, even the finest tool would be meaningless. Linghan advanced. The first 30 stones passed beneath his feet with ease, as though he were walking upon flat ground. But as he crossed the next 30, strain began to show. His expression tightened. Step by step, his body swayed under the mounting pressure. Then, the 80th stone, he halted. Sweat streamed down his forehead, tracing lines across his face. Within his body, his godly bones creaked and clattered under the immense burden, as though they might shatter at any moment. Heavens! He's reached the 80th stone. And he's only just entered the late stage of the low extreme. Unbelievable. Give him another 10 years, and he'll surely complete 3 visits. Yet admiration was not the only emotion in the crowd. Hidden among the gazes were cold glints of malice, A genius of this caliber could not be allowed to grow unchecked. Ling Han, however, made no attempt to force himself further. Instead, he turned and retreated. Back on the shore, he immediately began refining his final mountain river stone. In his heart, a single thought burned brightly. He would treat this island as a treasure vault to be plundered. Time passed. When the last mountain river stone dissolved into his being, his cultivation surged once more, reaching 2/3 of the way into the late stage of the low extreme. Such speed was nothing short of terrifying. But the Heavenly Sea Mystery Realm only opened once every 10 years. Opportunities to obtain mountain river stones were rare beyond measure. For someone to acquire 5, as Ling Han had, was almost unheard of. Within his Dantian, another transformation occurred. A second divine pattern appeared upon the great mountain. "The gravity field has doubled," Ling Han murmured. Indeed, the earliest improvements were the most dramatic. Yet he knew that once a third divine pattern formed, the increase would only be 50%. "You can do it this time," Shui Yanyu said softly, her eyes filled with anticipation. 3 visits, that is a miracle. Can he truly achieve it? Ling Han will definitely succeed. Hu Feiyan declared without hesitation, her faith absolute. In her eyes, Ling Han had already slain an evil beast beyond comprehension. What obstacle could possibly stop him now? Ling Han chuckled lightly. "Of course, this time, I will succeed." He stepped forward once more. This time, everything was different. With 2 extreme weight divine patterns, his resistance against the stone's gravity had increased significantly. Coupled with his greatly enhanced cultivation, his strength had risen to an entirely new level. The first 80 stones, he crossed them effortlessly. Beyond that, his speed slowed. His expression grew strained, yet his steps remained steady. Before long, the 90th stone. Now came the true trial. The final 10 steps, 91, 92, 93, every eye was fixed upon him. Was a legend about to be born? Ling Han had not even reached the peak stage of the low extreme. There was still ample room for growth. If he succeeded now, could he perhaps attempt a 4th visit in the future? The thought alone sent chills through the crowd. 97, 98, 99, only 1 step remained. A faint smile appeared on Ling Han's lips. With unwavering resolve, he stepped forward and arrived. 3rd success. In that instant, cold, killing intent flared in the hearts of many. Most notably, those from the Eternity Sky and Jade Drop majestic empires. A genius like this could one day reach the heavenly body tier, and the number of such experts directly determined the strength of an empire. He had to be eliminated before he grew too powerful. Ling Han, however, paid no attention to the undercurrents of danger. This time, he did not linger. He picked up a single mountain river stone and was immediately expelled back to the shore. Without delay, he refined it. His cultivation surged once more, approaching the peak stage of the low extreme. "I only need 4 or 5 more to reach the pinnacle." Yet clarity remained in his heart. "Even so, I cannot break through to the medium extreme. My cultivation has advanced through external means. My comprehension has not kept pace. When I return, I must calm my mind and cultivate my understanding." Still, the more mountain river stones he obtained, the better. They would serve him not only in the low extreme, but also in the medium, high, and even perfection levels. And if they bore special attributes, they would further enhance his combat strength. Though he knew the odds were slim, Ling Han attempted a 4th ascent. As expected, he failed. This time, he advanced only a dozen or so steps before being forced back. "It seems I must stabilize my cultivation and reach the pinnacle of the low extreme before I can attempt a 4th visit. And I only have 10 years. A faint thought stirred in his mind. Will I even have the chance to return here? He shook his head. Unlikely. It was far more probable that he would leave this place, prepare thoroughly, and strive to break into the medium extreme. That might not even take 10 years. His eyes sharpened. Then I must seize everything I can, here and now. The island still stood before him, silent, waiting, like a treasure vault, yet to be emptied. The path across Crimson Lake had already tested the limits of mortal will, and even Ling Han, whose heart was as steady as a mountain, understood one truth clearly. Forcing a 4th crossing of that treacherous path was nothing short of courting death. Thus, he let out a quiet breath and abandoned the thought. Beside him, Shui Yanyu's gaze lingered on the distant island, her expression calm, yet tinged with resignation. She had once attempted the crossing herself. Though her talent was exceptional, she had only managed 80 steps. To an outsider, it seemed a trivial gap, just 20 more steps. But to those who had set foot upon those floating stones, that final stretch was like the distance between heaven and earth. Ling Han turned his eyes toward Hu Feiyan, a faint smile forming as he spoke with gentle encouragement. Urged by him, the Ninth King finally stepped forward to try. To everyone's astonishment, she succeeded. Not only did she reach the island, but when she returned, her breathing remained steady, her steps light. As if she had yet to exhaust her strength, the surrounding cultivators could not help but click their tongues in amazement. So this was the Ninth King, the woman personally favored by the Empress of the Chaotic Star's majestic empire. Beneath that innocent beauty lay a talent that could not be underestimated. Ling Han watched her quietly, then spoke again, urging her to attempt a second crossing. Hu Feiyan did not hesitate. Ever since Ling Han had rescued her, she held an almost blind trust in him. Without questioning his intentions, she turned and stepped onto the path once more. This time, however, the difference was clear. Her pace slowed, her brows furrowed. Each step became heavier than the last. When she reached 60 stones, she suddenly stopped, turned around, and retreated without hesitation. Ling Han observed her movements carefully, his sharp gaze missing nothing. She moved swiftly, like a startled rabbit, retreating the moment pressure arose. From this alone, he could tell that her true limits had not been reached. It was not her body that failed her, but her heart. She lacked the will to endure hardship. In Ling Han's estimation, even if she failed to reach the island again, she should have been capable of pushing to 90 steps. And if she gritted her teeth and pressed forward, the feat of reaching the island twice was well within her grasp. But she did not. Had it been any other genius, they would have risked everything. Special attribute, mountain river stones were treasures beyond measure. Reaching the island brought immense glory. And more importantly, who would dare provoke the Ninth King? Yet Hu Feiyan simply chose to retreat. Ling Han shook his head inwardly. Her martial talent was extraordinary, but without a competitive spirit, her future path would be uncertain. Perhaps, in time, even Shui Yanyu might surpass her. Let's go, Hu Feiyan said lightly, her face bright with satisfaction. She had already obtained a special attribute, Mountain River Stone. To her, that was enough. She had never come here to temper herself, nor to seek treasures. She had come only because the Empress, her sister, had asked her to. She simply did not want to disappoint her. Ling Han sighed softly. Such an innocent temperament. It was ill-suited for the ruthless path of martial arts. The three of them left Crimson Lake behind and set their sights on a new destination, Flame Cave. Within this mysterious realm, Flame Cave was another place known to produce mountain river stones, yet not ordinary ones. These stones bore the essence of flame divine patterns. Once absorbed, they could imbue a cultivator's attacks with the might of divine fire, amplifying their destructive power immensely. But power came at a cost. Flame Cave was far more dangerous than Crimson Lake. There was no safe retreat there. It was like stepping into the maw of a demonic abyss. Within its depths roamed lava beasts, terrifying demonic beasts born from molten fire. From birth, they possessed the ability to wield divine flames, granting them battle prowess one level beyond their cultivation. And that was not the worst of it. Deep within the cave dwelled a king, the apex predator of this fiery domain, the king of the lava beasts. Its strength had already reached the high extreme. To encounter it was to face certain death. Though it rarely emerged from the deepest reaches of the cave, fate was a cruel master. Should one cross its path? Escape might not even be possible, yet Ling Han showed no fear. With the Black Tower in his possession, he held a trump card that defied reason. Even against a high extreme existence, he would not be instantly killed. His physique, tempered by the indestructible Heaven's Scroll, granted him resilience that bordered on the absurd. If death came, he would still have a chance to struggle against it. After studying their map, the trio set off. Hu Feiyan walked with a carefree expression, completely indifferent to their destination. Whether it was Crimson Lake or Flame Cave made no difference to her. She followed simply because she had been told to. Ling Han, however, used every step of the journey to refine himself. He carefully sensed the subtle fluctuations of gravity around him, seeking to weave this force into his combat techniques. Within his mind, calculations and insights surged like a flowing river. Though he had already grasped 3 divine patterns, it was still insufficient to elevate his battle prowess by another star. The higher one climbed, the harder it became to ascend further. To gain even a single star required a multiplication of strength, tenfold, perhaps even dozens of times greater than before. Yet the divine patterns of gravity held hidden potential. Used correctly, they could produce miraculous effects. The so-called star genius rankings were not absolute. For example, if he used the annihilating dragon star arrow to ambush a cultivator at the peak of the low extreme, his chances of success exceeded 90%. But did that mean his battle prowess had reached 9 or 10 stars? Of course not. These numbers were merely rough measures, guidelines, nothing more. Just as these thoughts flowed through his mind, whoosh! A violent ripple surged through the dense forest ahead, like a wave crashing through unseen currents. Ling Han's eyes sharpened instantly. He stopped. Shu Yanyu halted as well, her body tensing with alertness. Only Hu Feiyun, still lost in her own world, took several more steps before realizing the others had stopped. She turned back, blinking in confusion. "Why did you both stop?" she asked. Before an answer could be given, "Shoo! Shoo!" 3 figures burst out from the forest, sprinting toward them at full speed. Their appearances were miserable, clothes torn, faces pale. One of them was drenched in blood, staggering as they ran. They looked like men fleeing from death itself. Ling Han's gaze turned cold. He did not lower his guard. In a place like this, appearances could deceive. Were they truly fleeing? Or was this an elaborate trap to lure prey closer? Caution was survival. Before he could act, pang! The forest exploded as a monstrous figure emerged, a gigantic ape, 30 meters tall. Its towering frame rivaled the ancient trees themselves. Its body was pitch black, like a shadow given flesh. Yet what made it truly horrifying was its face. It had only one eye, a single, massive eye embedded vertically in the center of its forehead, occupying nearly half its face. With terrifying speed, the ape extended its arm. Despite its massive body, its arms were equally long, stretching 30 meters outward in an instant. Its hand reached the nearest fleeing cultivator. "Fuck off!" the man screamed, his voice filled with terror. He unleashed his strongest sword strike, his blade flashing with desperate brilliance. Pooh! The attack landed. Yet it was meaningless. The ape did not even flinch. The sword struck its palm and could only sever a few strands of hair. In the next instant, the man was caught. Without hesitation, the ape raised him and tossed him into its mouth. Crack! A sickening sound echoed. The man's body was crushed into 3 segments. Blood sprayed into the air. His head and legs fell from the sides of the ape's mouth. But before they could hit the ground, the creature's tongue curled outward, pulling the remains back in. Then, swallowed. Just like that. A peak low extreme cultivator? Reduced to nothing. Shu Yanyu's face turned pale as she exclaimed, "Single-eyed demonic ape. Once fully matured, it can reach the peak of the high extreme. We are no match for it. Run." Even as she spoke, the ape caught another fleeing cultivator. Another life devoured. Ling Han felt a chill run down his spine. He was no stranger to killing, nor to consuming demonic beasts. But this savage, bloody feast. It was something else entirely. Anyone weaker in spirit would have collapsed in terror. I can't move," Hu Feiyun stammered, her body trembling uncontrollably. Her legs refused to obey her. For someone so timid, the fact that she had not already collapsed was a miracle. Ling Han's expression hardened. "Take her and run first," he said to Shu Yanyu. "I'll hold it back." "No," Shu Yanyu replied without hesitation, her voice firm as steel. "It's too strong. You can't face it alone. I'll help you." Ling Han felt a surge of helpless frustration. Women, truly troublesome. And yet, a faint warmth stirred in his heart. Before such a terrifying existence, how many would choose to stay behind and fight? How many would say, "I'll help you"?